Test, test, test. Sounds good. Sounds good. Good. Okay. And so we'll start. And I would just
I'm trying to get this up so that I can have comments turned on. So just give me 1 second.
It's okay. Okay. So we'll get started with the idea of the Long Range Planning Committee and its plan to pull together all kinds of ideas and to put those into some kind of long range plan for the church.
You actually have to put the microphone closer to your mouth.
Right now? Oh, okay.
It doesn't do any good just to swing it around.
I'll tie this hand down. And so people have ideas they would like to see the church pursue, things they would like to see the church look toward as we look into the community, as we look at partnering with other agencies or groups or any kind of ideas for activities here. Don't all jump in.
So you're looking at what you want to see the church look like in, say, 5 state, just
Yeah.
years, right? Yeah.
Yes, what do you want to see the church look like in 3 to 5 to 10 years? Do you want the church to increase membership, to partner with other groups outside, to become more visible to the community around us, to learn what are the characteristics of the community and what are the needs of the community? And yeah.
So I'm never shy, he knows that. I guess I would like to see us be an active member of our community here.
Okay.
And, it could be something as, okay, it's fair game. He told me that I can say anything.
Yeah.
And
That's all.
reason. And that, just something very simple. At one point in time, we talked about a community garden over there.
Yeah.
Is that something that we could do? And that's another silly thing might be a soccer field for the kids to play over there.
Okay.
I'm done.
Although we're looking at a building over there.
I think one thing we ought to do is, before we get too far down this road, is kind of
Can you
take a look at what our assets are, and that may lead us in directions of what we're able to do. For instance, we have a very underutilized building.
Oh.
We use it on Sunday. We have a group or two that uses it periodically, but we have an underutilized building that's a huge asset.
Uh-huh.
Secondly, we have underutilized land. We've got a huge piece of property out here that, thank goodness for people like Bob and David, it gets mowed. But there are a number of opportunities where we can use that land. Thirdly, I see that we have another advantage that most churches don't have. We're next door to an elementary school.
Yeah.
We should be able, perhaps, to use our connection with them to have some kind of after-school program. At one time, we had a daycare here. And one way that, and I don't know what you guys see as our objectives, but it seems to me that one of our objectives should be to increase membership. And unfortunately, most of the membership that we increase seems to be old people like us. But we've got a school next door full of children. Why not increase our membership by having programs here for the kids next door, and then maybe we can bring some new families into the congregation. So I see 3 advantages. One, we got a building that's unused. 2, we got land
people have?
Love to see lots of families involved. I agree with Bob.
I agree with Bob. We really need to have more families, you know, younger families, or we're just gonna die off. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Go have some more kids.
Are you sure?
Well, they said we were open for ideas.
Well, but I think Jeff's got a comment.
Yeah, how about a contemporary service every now and again? Some people are not signed into traditional services. Contemporary service.
Oh,
Maybe not every time, maybe mixed in.
I can't even spell contemporary.
good idea, contemporary service, yeah. Yeah.
Can we start at 9:30 again?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Start later.
What'd you say, Ben? No. It was
Later.
2006, so it's, the red hymnal is almost a quarter of a century old already.
Well, the suggestion of starting later brings up, when we get a new pastor, are we going to be in concert with Hope in Frankfurt?
We haven't talked about it yet. We don't know. That's what
But I
I
mean,
said.
that's a part of
Yeah.
long-range
It
planning.
is. Yes, it sure is. Okay.
We do not have a joint call committee looking for a joint pastor. We have separate call committee. So we may just go with a part-time pastor for us.
It's kind of up in the air.
Well, that's what long-range planning is
That's
about.
right, that's right.
If you were gonna be a joint, say as a joint community churches, you would have a joint call committee.
That's, yes, yes.
And we
that's-
do not.
We do not. We do, and I said that from the onset, that, what are we gonna, that's gotta be the very first thing we do, moving forward even in the short term. What is that? But I was told that would be handled by the call committee, and I was not to worry my pretty little head about it.
Who had the nerve to tell you that?
Several people, actually. Several people, actually. So, yeah, and that is a good point. Are we going to continue to be a joint ministry? And perhaps we've learned from this experience that 30 miles away is too far. Maybe there's a church or a congregation closer by, and I do know that the council hasn't discussed this yet, but there is, I'm on the property committee too, so I do know that there's a small congregation that doesn't have a church that wants to talk to our council and our property committee about sharing our building. So they would do Saturday night service, and we would do Sunday morning service, and some other things. Maybe Wednesday night Bible study here when we're having choir practice, something like that. But there's some options to further utilize our building with another congregation even. And for us to go, maybe we want to have a partnership with another congregation in our neighborhood, someplace close by that's not going to be so far for whoever. Because really, it's true. Everybody's old except Jeff and Holly and these guys. Everybody's old. So we don't. Okay, Kathy's not old either. But we don't want to be driving to Frankfurt to do things with them, and they don't want to be driving to Lexington to do things with us. So that we learn that. Jeff.
We've got another item to put on the list that's off topic from what you're talking about, so I don't know if I should add it now.
Who cares? That was just a statement. We're not still on that topic.
Invitation to musicians to come in.
Yes.
So, in other words, Kelly's awesome, Kelly's great. However, if we bring in other musicians, it might spur growth and encourage other people to show up.
Ooh, I've got something. This is when I get to say what I want to do.
Finish right now.
Oh, I will. This is what I want to do. Everybody probably knows this already. I don't care. I want to take this choir loft out. We ain't used it, so this is the second choir director we've had, that we have not used the choir loft, and it's kind of archaic. Want to take the choir loft out? If luck is with us and Bob can figure out how to do it, we'll get almost $14,000 back from the IRS, from the federal government for rebate on the solar panels. Almost $14,000. And I propose we use that $14,000, maybe some other funds from our memorial funds or from someplace, and put a grand piano up here and send out invitations to the schools and the piano teachers to come and have their recitals at our church. When Lauren, my granddaughter, when she was a senior last year at Dunbar, her violin recital, because she took violin lessons at Dunbar, her violin recital was at my brother-in-law's church in Georgetown. Well, she just went to Dunbar High School. We have plenty of room. It would have been a nice place to have had that recital. And I think with a grand piano, we could draw in some of those piano teachers. What do you think, Barbara? You were always looking for places to have your recitals. What do you think about that?
I think that would be a real possibility. A grand piano is certainly a big investment. But I think the idea of having recitals in our church certainly is very good, yes.
Yeah. Okay, what do you think about the idea of having recitals, inviting people in to have recitals?
I think it's good, but I think $15,000 is pretty low for a piano.
Oh, no, I do too. I know we'd have to have more.
But we're talking a lot about community engagement. Outreach is kind of an outdated term when we talk about arts and different things like that. So a preschool makes a lot of sense, but it's expensive. A daycare makes a lot of sense, but it's perhaps a little expensive. Things that wouldn't cost us anything would be, I used to be in a trombone choir community group that was pros and walks of life folks. And we'd meet at a big Baptist church up on Gulf Road and I can't think of the name of the town around Chicago when I was up there. But they had a lot of different music groups that would just rehearse in the space. So that's a pretty easy thing to open up the location for those sorts of things. I know that the YMCA used to have something over here. I don't know if it still does. That's a good thing for engagement out on the land. The back to school thing.
Has an after school program, and yes, we're not doing that.
The back to school thing.
The back to school thing is they're doing it at more. The YMCA isn't partnering with us this year. They're going to Cardinal Valley Park to have their back to school rally because they want to give better backpacks.
Yeah.
Have fewer rallies and better backpacks.
But listening to Kelly, she's over the top good as an organist. She's good enough to have one of the jobs that pays real money in town.
She does.
Okay.
She's got one of the, we've got 3 jobs that pay real money, 4 if you count.
Well, I mean, she's good enough to be at the Episcopal Cathedral.
We know.
She's good.
We know.
That's the job that pays real money.
Oh, yeah. We don't pay that good of money, but she's one of our people that gets real money.
Well, I know.
The preacher, Kelly, Lisa, the office manager, and the cleaning man.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate Kelly. You're right. She's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
But let her catch up before we do anything else. Let her catch up with some of these ideas.
Jackie, let's take the recital idea one step further. It's a great idea, but let's go one step further and invite people who might also give a recital here to come on a Sunday and play one of the hymns, or to do the prelude.
That's ours. That was invite musicians, I think, on the front page.
No, it's right here. It's right here.
That's one of those things, if you use the space, you probably are going to give at least one time a year to play an open performance or play for the service.
We don't want to step on faces. LJ wants to know if,
Well, for starters, would an upright piano serve for a few years before we can afford the grand?
clear. So we're talking, oh, that might be bad. We're talking about community engagement, or are we talking about increasing participation, or are we talking about raising funds to keep the church going?
Or to even
All of
hire
the
a
above.
pastor.
All of the above. So if we're talking about all of the above, has there been any ideas presented about raising income or encouraging more tithing or something like that to the church?
Well, I think a daycare, that would be.
So if we're going to go that direction, my input to that is to see about providing an after-school program for. Oh, didn't pick it up. Sorry.
What about
And then
What
not
about
necessarily a preschool, more something to where parents can actually not have to pick up their kids immediately after school. Sorry, that's my input.
kids next door can walk over?
Yeah.
And summer daycare, if we don't want to do it all year long, you can do just summer.
And
Summer program.
and outside of that, perhaps partnering with one of the 501c3 organizations for income generation, and that could be anything from the tool library that was started in another area, perhaps bring something like that here, or God, I just went blank.
The other tool library, they have like trucks, they have multiple locations.
What, the one here in Lexington?
No,
Yeah. Yeah, well, keep in mind, I helped start a tool library in Portland, Oregon, and at the church that I was at. And that became an absolute raging success. This group over here, when I first started to interface with them, they were very particular about who they wanted to partner with.
Yeah, we're trying to
So
get them
I'm-
to set it up in that room over there.
Yeah,
They
and-
decided to go with trucks, so
They
they're
decided against working with churches because that's where those people live. Okay, and that's how they organize that group. Well, they had a perception of people who go to church. Okay, they had a perception.
I don't know about
And
that.
yeah, but that's an example. A tool library is an example, but there's plenty of others out there. So, yeah. Another one is possibly getting with some of these organizations that actually pay for spaces. An example, like I know we have Toastmasters here, and I know that there's other organizations similar to that that would be willing to pay for space.
So maybe not tool library, but just what would you call it, 501?
Yeah, I got
Partner
that.
with the 501c3 that
got
provides
it.
services for pay.
Yeah, so see what 501c3s are out there.
That would be willing
Partnering
to
with
do revenue sharing.
501c3 organizations, tool library, for example, or other.
And just to bring up some other points that were brought up earlier, just to move this conversation forward, I do remember hearing somebody talking about partnering with somebody about low-cost housing. I'm not a fan of it, but it is
It
an
was a
idea.
topic, yeah.
It was an idea. Having the church sponsor low-cost housing, maybe not on this property, maybe on another piece of property.
Yeah.
And that could be another idea, which is to, rather than focusing on this particular property, to organize something in another area that can provide revenue generation.
I haven't even brought that up.
We are close to a lot of different colleges. We should check and see different programs that could be involved. Being as close as we are to so many colleges, we could be partnering with the college classes for people who need internship, unpaid internships, doing things, and just interact more with the college. I know they have the Methodist thing at UK, but I think there is a serious need for more religious interconnection with the population at UK or Transylvania, or even in Wilmore.
Wilmore, yeah, we got two of our youth ministers from Asbury, so partnership with a lot of, yeah, there's Eastern nearby, you're right, that's good, it's good. Or maybe.
Let's follow up on Holly. Holly had a comment too. Well, when you're
Unpaid internship. I'm listening, Holly.
okay. There has been talk Well, and I know of a thrift shop in Versailles. It's very successful, and they are from the church, Journeys Church in Versailles, has a big thrift shop, and it generates income. It's very successful. The difference with that Journeys thrift shop is there is a ministerial association in Versailles, and they handed the project over to the Journeys Church. So they already had a thrift shop going, and then the Journeys Church took it over, and they're very successful. They have on the first floor is clothing, on the second floor is an entire library. People donate books. The entire floor is just full of books, and they charge 25 cents for paperbacks and 50 cents for hardbound. I mean,
And clothes are $2.
and their clothes are so inexpensive, and they have good clothing there.
Yes.
So that's another idea.
And they're less than a mile from the Goodwill. They're less than a mile from the Goodwill, and I don't go to Goodwill. They charge too much.
So on the idea of colleges and so forth, there are probably only so many Lutherans-ish in the area per se, as we know. But who's actually engaging with the college communities? I mean, there isn't a church right there on campus, a VLCA or LCMS. We came from Our Redeemer, that's where I grew up, and really not much engagement. I think St. John's might have something. I don't know if Faith does, but there's Methodist, there's Newman Center, there's all kinds of churches, Episcopalian, there's a presence near UK and near Transy, and I there's only so many of us, and we are where we are, but who's engaging with them?
That's right. Well, the Episcopal, at UK, it's not just Episcopal, it's Episcopal/Lutheran. Yeah, it used to be just Lutheran and just Episcopal, but now we combine.
Yeah, I don't know. If I would have come to town as an 18-year-old coming from another Lutheran congregation, I don't think I would have gone to that church.
Nope, me either.
Because that to me says it's an Episcopal parish, and you're a little bit more of your mindset of where you came from when you're 18 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's a,
We could provide transportation to come to the services.
we could engage.
transportation.
That's why we need a later service.
Yes.
If it's a Lutheran campus ministry, it should have.
There's no minister there anymore.
Publicity. There's composition, possibly. I mean, that was the lines of the Episcopal
Years ago, we have certainly have people involved in that, from all the different congregations here. In Lexington, we had representatives on the Lutheran Campus Ministry Board and that sort of thing.
Kelly
So-
was on Kelly was on that Episcopal Lutheran
Yeah,
Campus
and Enid was
Ministry
also.
Board for years.
Yeah, right. But there probably is much more that could be, maybe we need to support that more again. We used to, our church used to do that.
Yeah, Holly?
There's is it a senior center nearby, or we were just talking about possibly having like a gathering for seniors one day a week or something, where they can come and have lunch, we can provide lunch, and they play games. That would probably be funded, we'd probably get some grants for that as well, so.
I'm focusing mostly on that low-cost income tower that's literally down the road from us.
Uh-huh.
I'll let Jackie get caught up here first.
Okay, Emerson Center. Got it?
Okay. I've been thinking for some time, it would be nice to do more with the immigrant community, the immigrant population within our community. Now, I know that right now it might be a little scary for some immigrants, but I've had the idea of doing a get-together, particularly for mothers, women to come and just, for a social event, but would be a way that they could practice their English. Not necessarily to teach them English, but what they need, for the most part, is practicing their English, just getting together and talking, because that's how they're going to learn. They never get a chance to really interact with people that are not Spanish speaking or, Swahili or whatever, Arabic speaking. They don't get a chance to interact with English speakers. And I think that would be a great thing to do once, twice a month or so.
It doesn't have to be women.
No, that's true. Could be anybody. Yeah.
But I agree with Patty. The men seem to get out into the community more. Remember when we set up the apartment over on Augusta Drive and with the Swahili-speaking family, and the people, I looked in the doors of the other apartments because they were all open, and I didn't see a single man sitting in there, but I saw a lot of women in there talking to each other and not in English. Every apartment had the door open, and there were women and children, but no men.
And if you have Arabic communities, the women aren't going to be talking with men. They wouldn't even want to meet with them.
Right, they're not allowed out of the house.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Jeff had an idea as well.
Jeff?
Yeah, so this may be unpopular, but it is an idea. If we're not using this huge ass property, why not sell it?
Parts of it.
Parts of it. It may not be a popular idea, but I mean, we're looking at ideas, right?
Or lease
Or lease or develop.
some of the land. That is not.
We actually had a parsonage down on the corner and sold that lot years ago. So, I mean, yeah, we're brainstorming ideas, but I don't think that one's very useful, frankly.
Thank you for your opinion.
It's an idea. No ideas will be rejected.
The extra property over here, I like the idea of a soccer field or something like that, but we have been talking to a developer that would put elderly people's homes, 900 square foot little homes for people that are still on their own, but they're over 65 or
Over 55.
over 55, and it's kind of going to be some single family stuff. Well, now the upside that I see to that, they give us, they maintain it.
And it's a long-term lease, Jeff. We wouldn't be
It's
selling them.
long-term lease,
but
it's all on
it'd be
paper
like
that they have to
99
do this and
years
that.
with monthly.
And they're very reputable, and they pay us, they lease the property from us. They pay us actually monthly. I don't know what that amount is, a yearly or a monthly. It'd probably be an annual.
We haven't even talked about any of that.
Back to, if that idea is successful, is there any reason why we can't find a parcel that's underdeveloped in the area and repeat that?
We probably.
Well, we maybe could,
That could be
yeah.
an option.
And it may be, see, these are not people that need care and all. These are people that are still care for themselves. They may start coming to the church. Affordable
yes.
housing for
It's
elderly.
like downsizing
Yeah,
like
there you go, Art.
But into like an apartment or a townhouse.
900 square foot apartment or townhouses. I'm not sure how many they're wanting to put on, but
So you're talking about creating, like a townhouse as compared to a mini house?
Right.
yeah.
Townhouses or apartments.
Like apartments, 900 square foot apartments.
I was thinking mini houses myself, so.
Jeff, the man that came to talk to us, just to start, Bob just got him to come to share some information because Woodland Christian is doing this on Maxwell. Yeah, they're doing this. So Bob had the guy come talk to us and just look at it and see what he thought. So we haven't made any decisions because we can't, but it's an option.
Yeah, in fact, my old church in Portland has really gone into this, and they've got, a property minister that's on staff. And apparently, I'll bet this is a nationwide thing, actually, to push to use nonprofit properties. So I don't know what the scope of it is, but it's weird to be getting emails from my old church saying that our I don't think they call it a property minister, they call it a housing minister. And apparently there's a national push for this. So we would be falling within that.
Which there's a house shortage everywhere, so that makes sense.
And there's tons of people getting older.
Are you sure?
Yeah, people in their 50s and 60s.
But I go back to, is it something to which, if we can't actually have it here, could we buy a parcel someplace else and continue down that road?
There's another idea, and she's not here today, but Kay, for several years, and many of you might know about this already, Kay has wanted to put where the back is. You know where the playground is? You know where the playground is? Kay wants to put adjacent to that playground a shelter. The park does not have a shelter. And Kay wants to put up a shelter with, like a part of it undercover or part of it enclosed that would have have bathrooms and a kitchen. So, and then people could rent that shelter from us or utilize it. She's had this idea for a very, very long time that she thought that would support our surrounding community. And if you've ever tried to rent a shelter, they're not terribly expensive, but there's the shelter by our house has a waiting list months and months and months long if you want a weekend.
It would need.
Yes.
How much is it to rent those shelters?
Those shelters that the city has at the parks that don't have any bathrooms or electricity are $50. For an afternoon. But Kay wants to have electricity. She wants to have it to be like that one that we rent in Versailles for. Yeah.
Electricity, but they bring their own bathroom if they want a
No,
bathroom.
we'd have a bathroom.
Oh,
She
we'd
wants
have
a
a bathroom.
bathroom and a kitchen.
Why couldn't we just have a porta potty?
I think I'm just telling you what Kay wants.
So just to be clear, you're talking about reutilizing our space for the public community, but charging a fee for usage of the facility.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So no matter how it's constructed, the idea is to kind of reutilize the property.
Right, yes.
So
Rather
whether it's
than,
a kitchen, porta potty, whatever,
Whatever.
I'm sure that can be decided.
yeah.
Porta
But
potty.
to make it to where this big piece of grass can be used for parties or whatever else, within the church's whatever the policy is.
Porta potty could be used by people
Yes,
running
back
through
in
to
the
the
back,
park,
adjacent to the park.
walking their dog.
That part of the property. She wasn't talking about us, she don't wanna build the shelter out front, and she didn't wanna, she
Yeah.
never talked about building it where Elaine
They
might
come
want
and
the
empty
soccer
it and
field,
make
where
sure
we might
it's
do
not
community gardens, or where we might lease it to somebody to do public housing. No, that's not where she was talking. She's talking about
No.
back in the back, adjacent to the playground.
Got another idea, again.
Wait, I gotta write down. Shelter. For community use. Okay, I'm sorry.
Maybe should sell just solar lights or something. No power. It'd be hard to cook with that solar. Bring your grill.
All right, Holly, I think you have another idea?
Where we dance. So they have a space where they open it up for all groups, for us dancers, for the Girl Scouts, and everybody gives donations. All those donations go to a very large garden that they feed the entire city of Midway with, and it's huge. So that's just one.
It's huge, yeah. That's back to the community garden, and it is huge.
And the way they manage
It's
it
not
is,
funded by just the donations from the groups that rent out the space. And they have it rented every night.
and the way they manage that is basically the church goes out, plows in the field as a group. The church goes out there and puts plants in, puts seeds in,
rental, like
Yeah.
space rental.
I
Ready to
got
be
it.
managed.
And supported, funded.
And the more you draw people onto your property, they might be more comfortable dropping into church every now and then. And dropping a nickel in the tide.
I do have
Yeah.
a comment.
That may be for our future congregation.
For years, we have done the back to school program. Since 1997, we have done the back to school program outside. It was started, Leanne Musgrove started it as a celebration for the community, for the kids next door, and for our own kids before they went back to school. And then in the in the middle 2000s, sometime before 2010, it changed. We changed and started partnering with a Y because it was getting really expensive. But we have never gotten a family that they come and enjoy it, but they have never come back and been part of our church. And I've heard, and I have an opinion about that. I've heard people say, we work really hard. Everybody, I mean, we're an old congregation. And we're all out there working and serving and hustling around during that. And I've heard several people say they felt like they were being served, like they were not as good as us. That they were not as good as we were. That we were not ministering to them, but that they were there kind of out of our charity. So I think we have to be careful about, like I said, we've been doing that since 1997. Isn't 2 years is 2027, right? So, and we've never gotten a single family, not a single family has ever come here and become members because of that back to school program. So I think we have to watch what we do, we can have the biggest hearts in the world and be so generous, but you have to be careful that you're being like Jesus and not like Judas. You're serious. Barb's got that hand up.
Well, I was really happy last year. I think the Outreach Committee really put out a really great brochure, and when they went out into the community, and I was reading through that again this morning to remind myself, and I think it's very well written, and it really tries to show an openness to the whole area, and I think we have to keep doing that, and of course one-to-one is always the best if we have an opportunity to get acquainted. And I guess Jimmy was out in front of church on Easter Sunday, and somebody came along, and he invited them in, and they came in. And so sometimes we don't have any idea of what is going to happen. But I think you're right. I think it's very, takes a one-to-one and really good relationships. I suppose the other thing I was thinking about, and this is kind of on the fringe, I suppose, as far as finances, there are a number of us who are Thrivent people, and we do have access to a Thrivent action team every year, and I think that we aren't emphasizing that enough anymore. We used to get more reminders about that. I am one, and so I get something in the mail, and I think, oh, I haven't done this for a couple of years.
I need to talk to you about that. I know you've got two, and I will help you do that Thrivent Action Team to use yours. LJ's got a Thrivent Action Team too. I can help you too with yours, LJ. That's right there, that's $1,000.
We're Thrivent.
Yeah, but you're capable of doing your own action teams. Dave and I have used all our action teams up for this year. I used one of mine to work with Woodstock when we collected all the stuff at Christmas and in January. And I've used the other one for and David used his for our trash gardens and gave one to Isabella for her school to do the raised bed gardens at her school. So yes, if you've got if you've got ideas, or if I've got an idea, I will help you use your action team grants. I I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been meaning to talk to you about that anyway.
Well, I think just to make known, people who aren't here today who do have thrivent sort of a connection, and they just haven't thought about it. And so maybe that could be published somewhere along the line.
Carol, every time we have the project day, and project day, we've been inviting people, our acquaintances that aren't members here at Gethsemane. We have had some success with people coming to project day on Wednesday morning, especially when Carol has the idea to go out to lunch. That's very successful. But every time we have project day, we discuss the Thrive in Action, and she's got it listed who is a Thrivent member, so that if there's something that needs to be done, we can do it. So yeah, I'll write that down too. Yeah, Kim.
We need to bring back Vacation Bible School, and we need to have events for kids in the summer that they can come to or the families. We can have events for families in the summer.
That's an idea.
And Vacation Bible School. I've been looking at that, and I was going to talk to Kathy about when they were going to be in town, so we left it, so we didn't leave our two children out of Vacation Bible School. But the ELCA has a Vacation Bible School curriculum for 2025. It's free. We've got money, and I just got to decide with my committee, with Art and Tom and Jimmy and Kathy, when it might be a convenient time for us to do. What I'd like to do for Vacation Bible School this year is have like a Friday night kickoff where we might have a potluck or something like that, and or a little something on Friday night. Have Saturday a whole day of Vacation Bible School, like a camp, where the kids come, and for a couple hours in the afternoon, I'd like to have a seminar where we ask the parents to come, and we have a topic for the parents, and then have supper afterwards.
That may actually draw some of the neighborhood people in. I just wanted to say, I'm surprised we don't have a few more Hispanic people at this church, because they're very religious, and they're all over the place here. They are seriously.
They're
a lot of
everywhere.
those folks. Yeah, and they're all throughout the neighborhood. I wouldn't mind drawing some of them in.
Okay, this is, I apologize, this may not be within the context of where we're going right here. But something that was useful at a prior church is that we had a listening session in which the church actually reached out to city leaders, local community groups, and so on, and basically said, how can we help? What can we provide that you need? Going back to David's suggestion, we've got an area called Mexington that is within a mile of here, yet we don't show any evidence of that here. So I go back to, again, this may not be within scope, but to have a time period or something like that to which we reach out to city leaders, to people who are prominent in the community, and say, what can this organization do for your community, and so on.
We can teach these kids Spanish.
Yes, I know, like I said, it might be out of scope for the question.
No, it's not.
These kids might pick up Ebola, stuff like that.
Pick up Ebola?
Yes, Hola.
Hola.
Hola, amigo.
No, I think that's exactly the scope, Jeff. That's exactly the scope.
Anybody else? Here we go.
There is a church on the way to where the school we pick up our grandson. They offer I think a once a week community dinner. They just say, anybody come, free food, come eat.
That's actually pretty amazing. I was part of something like that in Portland for a while.
And then that would also open the ideas of what the community needs.
Yeah, yeah.
Make it a pop-up stuff.
Ah, yeah, maybe so.
In fact, that's like the Episcopal church we went to in
Yes.
Bowling Green
Yeah.
did that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I mean, when we weren't working, when we were having our own lunch, we would sit down with people. And I found that there were a lot of, I mean, there were graduate students there. There were musicians. And there were people, workers who could barely speak English. Asians and it was just downtown and there was a need. And another one. Okay, second idea, which is a little weird. I was waiting till last to maybe contribute this. A little weird, but speaking of renting our space, or not renting our space, but monetizing our space. People who are cremated sometimes want a little box to put the ashes in. It's technically called a columbarium. And there are a lot of churches that have a columbarium on site so that, people never have to leave church.
So we can maybe do that in a prayer garden, you would think?
Well, yes. Well, I mean, we already have people sprinkling their ashes in the prayer garden, but this would be a simple structure where you could seal in a box with ashes, and in the Lexington area, it costs anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 roughly, just to have someone to. Just to have a place to inter some ashes. Yeah. And,
Is it like drawers or cabinets?
yeah.
There are churches that do have this. Neighborhood
Yes.
church not far from here, and they have them both in the ground and then
Oh,
they have
okay.
a structure, and it kind of like in a safe deposit box.
Yes. Yes. That's it. Yes. Or yeah.
Or a plaque on the front.
And a plaque on the front.
And people purchase those.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is cousin and
I think we have a lot of
All right.
good ideas. I've heard at least 3 or 4 or 5 good ideas about how to utilize the building. And we know that none of these things is going to be just a moneymaker, but more how to utilize our space and how to be good stewards of our space. Because remember too, there are things that we have to do to keep up with our space other than just driving in. The plumbing is not good. So, that can be a deterrent to some things. We maybe don't want to have 100 middle schoolers in here 5 days a week. We might not be able, so we have to look at our parameters, but we can also look at how then we can use our plans of, we might do all this stuff, you guys. I mean, maybe we will develop lease the land, build case shelter. It's been pretty easy to tear out that. I thought that was such a good idea of mine, to tear out that, and then I tell Bill Benjamin, David Williams built that, and it's just built over the floor. It wouldn't be hard to tear it out. And then Bill Benjamin says, oh yeah, that's what we did in my last church. It was very successful in getting people in to have piano recitals, and it attracted a lot of musicians to that piano. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Bill. Now I know it wasn't even my idea.
But you spoke it, you said it out loud.
I did say it out loud. I said, well, thanks, Bill.
So as we
Yeah, we got a lot of good ideas.
and as we probably finish up here, because it's getting on to an hour, that's what the brain can handle, what the rear end can handle, so we're about there. But we have a lot of ideas. The long-range planning committee will talk about these tomorrow. We have a meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and we'll start to synthesize and see kind of what goes together and just look at the options. There are a lot of options out there, more options than we will ever have energy to do. So we'll have to be selective about going through this stuff. And then we'll bring it back to the congregation again.
Yeah, we can't do anything without the congregation.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in being on the long-range planning committee, there's space for you. I mean, we can't have a whole congregation on the planning, but if you're passionate about something, or you're passionate about this, we should have had a long-range planning committee all the time.
Yeah.
I am guilty, as is everyone else who's been vice president of this congregation. The vice president is supposed to work on long-range planning and with the chairs of all the committees, and we have been very negligent in doing that. I mean, and I'm not blaming anyone. I'm telling you, I was the vice president for 2 years and then another year, and I didn't do one damn thing for long-range planning. What?
I know you can be heard by everyone. Yeah.
And a note to that, a 4 p.m. meeting may not bode well for people who have to work.
True, true. We did it based on the people who were on the committee. There was four of us on the committee.
Yes, the time is not written in stone.
No,
The
it's
time
not.
is not written in stone.
It works for the convenience of whoever is on it now.
And even though this is a separate committee, the call committee will take under advisement all of this stuff, and when we're looking for a new pastor, these are the things that we want this pastor to be interested in too.
I'd like this new pastor to be interested in just anything.
Yeah. Well, I guess other people have any other ideas, comments before we close up here?
He's waiting, but he wants me to end streaming, so if you want to wrap it up, and then he's waiting to say something else.
I might hear.
Are we done with our?
I think so. Yeah, we're done. We're good.